Hey guys, welcome back. This is History of Power Rangers Season 1, Episode 32 of my show, but this is about Episode 35. Now, Episode 30, but before I actually start talking about it, I just want to mention, before I start talking about it, I just want to mention to you guys, this will be the only video, that'll be, uh, actually, oh man, I'm sorry. This is History of Power Rangers Season 1, Episode 32 of my show, but this is about Episode 35. And Episode 35 in the original Power Rangers first season is known as the Green Candle Part 2. Now, as this video states, this video is going to cover the second part of the two-part Green Candle episode. But before I continue, I'm just going to mention this first before I do. This is going to be probably the only video I do for this weekend because of the fact that I'm going to the spaghetti supper today here at the hall, and then Sunday I'm gonna be going to depending on what time I go, because there's a movie that's in the theater. It's called Geostorm. So depending on what time I go for the movie, I might do a second one tomorrow. But it really depends on what time I go for the movie, which will probably be in the afternoon. So if I have time tomorrow, I am going to record and upload a second one for this weekend. I just thought I'd get that out of the way. Now, anyway, getting back on topic, this is History of Power Rangers Season 1, Episode 32 of my show, but this is about Episode 35. And as I told you guys before, Episode 35 is Part 2 of the Green Candle two-part episode. Now, again, as I have stated, what I was going to do was, if I got to a 2 or 3 part episode, I'd break them up, talk about the 2 or 3 part videos separately, but if I got to a 4 or 5 part episode, I would condense it into an hour-long video for you guys, just to make it kind of simpler. Anyway, this video is going to cover Part 2 of the Green Candle two-part episode. And this episode basically carries over from where the first part left off. Because if you guys remember in the last video, I talked about it, showed, I shouldn't say showed, but I mentioned that Tommy mentioned about the green candle, and then it went to the scene where the candle was in a dark dimension, and that's where the episode stopped. Now, this episode is going to carry over from where that left off, and basically, Tommy is telling Zordon that he can't believe this. Rita has connected his powers to a candle, and then Zordon tells him that she has, and the bad news about the candle thing is, if the flame of the candle is allowed to burn while it's still in her possession, Tommy's Green Ranger powers will be hers forever, basically. So basically what that basically means is this segment of the two-part Green Candle episode is basically they're gonna try to retrieve the candle. Now the funny thing about the candle thing is what's gonna happen before the end of this episode. I'm not gonna mention that. I just wanted to mention a little bit of what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna save what happens with the candle thing later when it goes into when they're in the dark dimension, like one of them is. Anyway, basically, what happens after that? Basically, what happens after that is, they're deciding on who should go into the dark dimension in order to retrieve the green candle. And Jason says, because basically what happens is Billy I'm just gonna mention something that I should have mentioned in my previous video. Billy had built these sort of trans-dimensional teleporter devices in the previous episode. I guess I should have mentioned that when I did the previous video, but I didn't. It slipped my mind. I believe it was called the Portal Com, which is basically it was basically a portal device that Billy created to help them get. Actually, I can't remember, but I don't think. Well, the Portal Com is actually something that's going to come into play in this specific episode. I just wanted to mention that, but the whole Dark Dimension thing, that's going to play into what's going to happen. Now, basically what happens is Rita starts attacking the city again, and then basically what happens after that is while the Rangers are... Actually, what happens is Jason decides to go into the dark dimension to retrieve the green candle. But the other Rangers are telling him that he shouldn't, but he's reassuring them that it makes sense, which in this case, it does make a lot more sense, because up until this point and one point in season 2, and in the nearing the end of the Return of an Old Friend 2-part episode, up until those 3 points, Jason is the only one of the 6 Rangers, aside from Tommy, who's actually been in Rita's Dark Dimension. So, but Tommy says that he can't do it because because he'd never forgive himself if something happened to Jason while he was in there. But in all honesty, it kind of makes sense, because logically it makes sense, basically, because of the fact that, as I said before, he was the only other Ranger until later on in this first season, and one time in the second season that has already been in the Dark Dimension, basically. So technically it kind of makes sense. Anyway, so they go to the place where Tommy was captured by the putties, but to put up the Portal Com devices, and but after they put them up, before they managed to put them up, Bulk and Skull start running. well, what happens is Rita then sends a monster down. I'm not sure if it's the same Cyclops monster. It might be the same one from the previous video. She sends it down to distract the Rangers so that the candle burns again. I just wanted to bring that up again because that's going to play a little bit of what's going to happen into the nearing the end of the episode. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Anyway, getting back into the actual episode, after they're setting up the portal comm devices, this is going to sound kind of stupid, but while they're setting it up for Jason to go inside the dark dimension, what happens is basically Bulk and Skull kind of show up, and they tell them that they're in their private park. But then Billy tries to reassure them that the park is public. Anyone can be in it except for the nerds, basically. Actually, Bulk says except for the nerds, which is them. So he tells them to get out of and then. But basically what happens is after that is Bulk and Skull start playing around with Billy's portal comm devices, and then after that they manage to go away for a little bit, and then basically what happens is then Jason goes into the dark dimension to try to retrieve the candle. And at that point, Tommy is staying behind because until Jason gets the candle back, his powers are basically useless. But then Rita sends down, I'm not sure if it's the same monster. It might be the same monster from the previous video, but she sends, I think it's the same monster. I'm not really sure, but I think it's the same monster from the previous video. She sends it down to attack Angel Grove, and then Tommy is looking on the viewing globe of where the monster is, basically. And then after that, what happens is he's telling Zordon that he's got to go fight it. But Zordon tries to reassure him that the candle isn't in Jason's possession quite yet. So if he goes, the candle's flame might accelerate and cause it to burn a little more, which kind of makes a little bit of more sense. But then Tommy basically says that if he doesn't, the city will get trashed while the other Rangers are, while Jason is in the dark dimension trying to retrieve the candle. Oh, and now getting back into it with Jason, when he's in the dark dimension, he confronts Goldar. He confronts Goldar for the second time inside the dark dimension. I say second time because the first time was in that hour-long Green with Evil 5-part episode I did. So that's what I mean by second time. And then Goldar says that he's welcoming Jason back to the dark dimension, and he says that this is an unexpected pleasure of his. And then basically what happens after that is, he and Jason start fighting later, and then basically what happens is after that, Tommy tries to reassure Zordon that he has to go to fight the Cyclops monster, because if he doesn't, the city will be destroyed. So he's kind of, in this case, he doesn't really have much choice. And like I said before, that's actually going to play a hand in what's going to happen at the end of this episode, and kind of what's going to lead into one of the episodes of the later seasons. Like the next season after this one I'm talking about. That's what I mean. I won't explain about season 2 until I get to it, though. I wanted to mention that, though. And basically what happens is, while Tommy is fighting the Dragon Zord Cyclops monster imposter on his own, well, what happens is, after he morphs to his Ranger form to fight the Dragon Zord Cyclops monster imposter, after he morphs, he says it's time for the Eel Dragon Zord power, and then basically what happens after that is, then later on, Zordon notices that Tommy and his Zord are in trouble, so Zordon contacts Zack on the communicator to tell him what's going on, and then basically what happens after that is, after Zordon tells them what's happening with Tommy's powers and such, Zack goes into the Dark Dimension to retrieve Jason in order to help Tommy. But when Zack enters the Dark Dimension, he and Jason have a little bit of a tiny smidge of a tiny argument, because Zack is telling Jason in this episode that Tommy's in trouble and he needs their help. But Jason tells Zack that if he doesn't get the green candle, Tommy will lose his Ranger powers. But then Zack tries to reassure Jason that if they don't get to him during the battle where he is at now, he'll lose his life, basically. So it's... And in this case, I think Jason kind of made the right choice with leaving the Dark Dimension. That's just my opinion, and like I've always told you guys, YouTube is about people's opinions, and that's mine, and I thought I'd mention that. Anyway, continuing on, after Jason leaves the Dark Dimension with Zack and they go to help, but before they go to leave, what happens is Goldberg kind of mocks Jason for not following through on retrieving the candle, and then basically what happens after that is Jason gets out of the Dark Dimension with Zack, and then basically what happens is Jason tells them that he didn't get the candle, but they morph to help Tommy fight the monster, basically. And then after they fight the monster, and they form the Megazord, Rita's like, "Burn, candle, burn!" And then, Tommy said to Rita, no, he can't take her, she can't take his powers, he's the Green Ranger and stuff. And then after that, they managed to defeat the monster, but by the time the monster's defeated, the candle has already been burned down and out, basically. Oh my god, so his powers are kaput. And after that, what happens is, Jason tries to tell Zordon that he's going back to retrieve the candle, but Zordon explains to Jason that it's already too late. The flame is already burned out. And then basically what happens after that is Zordon tells the Rangers that there's only one way that they can prevent the Green Ranger's power from being transferred over to Rita, Tommy, and the only way is basically for Tommy to give one of the Rangers his power coin. And in doing so, the Green Ranger power that Rita thinks she gets because of the candle are not going to be hers. So in a sense, it's kind of a victory. And then after the green power coin gets transferred, Zordon tells Tommy as the Green Ranger that basically he was a true warrior and stuff like that. And after he hands Jason the power coin, Rita gets upset that she kind of lost because she almost had control of the Green Ranger powers, but because of the transfer of the coin to Jason, her plan basically failed. And then after that, what basically happens is Kimberly is with Tommy at the beach area where the adventure, where the part of that started, and then she's wondering if he's okay, and then he says that he's fine, and her and her friends were a team long before he showed up, and he said that they'll be fine, and she said that she misses them, and then they do this little kiss scene, and then after that, Tommy basically says that he's been wanting to do that for a while, and he says that basically now that that's out of the way, he guesses that his next question will be seeming like an easy thing to do, because this episode takes place after the events of the first part, and what happened was in the first part of the episode, Tommy was trying to ask Kimberly to go to the dance with him and stuff, but because of what happened with Rita and the putties, he didn't get a chance, so he asks her the question about him going to the dance with them, and after a while she does this sort of silent treatment, and then she tells Tommy that basically she knew she didn't want to make it a little too easy for him, and she says of course, and that's basically where this episode stops. So if you guys like this video when I post it, I am gonna post it today, but I'm not gonna post it until after, probably not until after I get back from the spaghetti supper. So until tomorrow, guys, like I always tell you with this series, so if you guys like this video when I post it, I'm going to post it later today when I get back. So if you guys like this video when I post it later today, just please give it the real best you guys can. And I'll see you guys probably sometime tomorrow for the next video. But until then, guys, like I always tell you with this series, may the power protect you always.